So last week I took the plunge and decided to buy myself a new set of big monitors. My KRK Rokit 8s, they've been in service for about 10 years now. They're the second generation, and one of them's been giving me some issues, so I decided, you know what, I'm not going to forego repairing this thing and figuring out what's wrong. I'll just sink some money into a new set of monitors. When you look up studio monitors and which ones are, the best or the ones that people talk about a lot, you really see these ADAM T7Vs coming up quite a bit. Now, I actually reached out to ADAM. They never got back to me. I was hoping that they could sponsor this video and send me a pair of monitors at the same time so I could review them. They didn't do that, but I still decided to give them my money and buy this set of ADAM T7Vs. Now, in today's video, I'm going to give you my 100% unbiased opinion. I've just set them up. We're going to take a listen to some music that I'm very familiar with, and I'm going to give you my first impressions and whether or not you should consider buying them for yourself. Are you ready? Let's go. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy 5-Piece producer and engineer extraordinaire. Thank you for checking out today's video, and as always, if you haven't already, please hit the bell and subscribe button down below so you can stay tuned for more helpful content. I drop something new every single week, always focused on helping you sound better and helping you make more money with your music. If you want help with these two areas, definitely subscribe to the channel so I can assist with that. But in today's video, we're talking about these ADAM T7Vs that you may not see in frame right now, but you saw me set them up, you saw me put them together, and I'm really excited to take a listen and see how these things sound, especially on some mixes that I've recently completed. When I went to Long & McQuaid to buy these speakers, I didn't get a chance to go inside because we're in quarantine, we're on lockdown, but I really needed a new set of monitors, so I went over there and just made a deft purchase, I guess you could say, rather than a blind purchase. I could give you a few ideas and things that I think so far about these monitors, and there's definitely a couple of things. The first thing is the length of the AC cable. The power cable is pretty short, so if you have, a taller setup, you're probably going to want to find a larger cable or at least get an extension cable for these monitors, because I did find that it was really, really short when I was plugging them in, as you may have noticed during that speed through at the beginning. The other thing I noticed is the monitors, they don't have a stepped volume control, so it's really difficult in a way to perfectly get the volume even on both monitors. You have to be very attentive to the detail of where exactly it's set, whereas some monitors, they actually have the stepped pot, and that means you could just click it into place each time. These monitors do not have that. Now, these monitors do have a high frequency and a low frequency gain control, so almost like a little bit of an EQ built into it. I haven't put that on yet. I'm going to see how they sound in this room and how I'm used to them, or how I get used to them, I should say. But that is an additional feature that is pretty cool. Now, I did have a little bit of a struggle when I first set these up. I couldn't get signal out of them, and as I learned from troubleshooting in the past, it's always something really obvious and stupid that you're overlooking. In my case, there's an input switch on the back. I'm using the XLR balanced input, so I had to flick the switch upwards to recognize that input rather than the other input that the speaker has on the back. There's a few different ways you can connect to these speakers. I chose to go the XLR route, just like it balanced. That's just my preference, especially with the sub. I didn't want to have to buy any new cables for these, so that's the route that I took. Now, just to break down why I decided to buy these monitors, they really are talked about quite a bit, and something that caught my eye was the ribbon tweeter that they have. They say that this ribbon tweeter is a lot easier to listen to. It's a lot more pleasant, and it's less fatiguing on the ear, so you can listen to it for longer durations of time. ADAM also has a great reputation, especially their higher end speakers like the A7X and etc. They're way more expensive. They're almost like 3 times the price of these monitors per speaker. But I was definitely considering that. I decided to go the budget route here because this is for my private studio. I also have a secondary setup at home, and I wanted to bring my Yamahas home so I could actually, do some editing and production and all that stuff there. But I still wanted to make sure that I had a set here without having to go back and forth and lug stuff around all the time, etc. Once again, like, people are always talking about these T7Vs and whether or not they're good or whatever. There's a whole lot of shootouts going on. I was definitely thinking about getting a pair of HS8s, so another pair of Yamahas. They're a lot more flat in terms of their frequency response. But the ADAM seem to have a fairly flat frequency response too, a couple of dips and boosts here and there. Nothing is ever going to be 100% perfect or perfectly reproduce the frequencies that we want to hear. But we're just trying to get, the best possible sound. And again, that listening time, being able to listen to these for a longer period of time, was definitely enticing for me personally, and that's why I decided to make this purchase. So let's listen to a couple of songs, a couple of beats, just a couple of things that I've put together. I'll play a little bit of each. I'm still going to determine if these are set up optimally for my room. I might have to play with, the spacing between them and my position as well over the long run. But for all intents and purposes, this should be good enough just to see how these speakers sound and get my first impressions. So let's go. I'm going to play a couple of tracks and we'll chat a little bit more about it.
It sounds so good. 5.
So, like, nothing crazy to report. I mean, they sound like monitors. I mean, I've definitely used a couple of monitors in my day. I've used KRKs, the Rokit 8s, of course. As you saw, I replaced those. Yamahas for sure. Some of the higher end ADAMs. And everything is sounding good and tight, and punchy is sort of like a word that a lot of people have described these as, and I would agree. Like, the drums are really hitting. I'm definitely pushing the volume. I have the speaker set to 0 dB right now on the back. Over here, I'm not exactly sure where the volume is set in relation to that, but I'm roughly at about 11 o'clock on my Apollo Twin. So it's quite loud, realistically speaking. I'm getting the drums, I'm getting the clarity, I'm getting the top end nice and clear, and it sounds good. It doesn't sound bad. I don't regret my purchase so far. Maybe I'll play a couple more songs and just continue to catch a vibe. But it is important to mention, I have heard that these speakers, you have to break them in over an 8 to 10 hour period. We're literally in hour 1 right now, so, these may shift in sound and sound a little bit better or tighter or whatever as I use them more and more, which is the hope, of course. I'll play a next track here. Let's see what this one sounds like.
It sounds so good. 5.
So that mix, in my opinion, that mix was actually a little bit better. To be fair, the first song I did still needs some work on the mixing front. This one, though, really clean, really hitting. I'm getting the lows, I'm getting the impact, I'm getting the mids, I'm getting the highs. I'm getting like a good, in my opinion, representation of everything. Definitely feels a bit broader than what I'm used to on the HS5s, which is what I've been mixing on for the past bit. Yeah, I'm actually really impressed. That really impressed me that time around. I'm going to play another beat, and then maybe I'll play a couple of songs just to see, you know, where's everything sitting and vocal-wise and stuff like that, right? So here, let's check out this last beat.
5.
So I played this song on purpose because it was super bass heavy. There's a lot of low end information on that song, huge 808s, you know, it's kind of like one of those ignorant trap songs, right? And I did that because every speaker, they have their own frequency response. And if I'm not mistaken, these T7Vs, they're sort of lacking a little bit. Not a crazy amount, but there's just a little bit of a dip in the lows and the low mids, right? And that's important to know because based on what your speaker is giving you in terms of information, you're going to make mixing decisions based on that. And if it's lacking in the low end, what's going to happen is you're going to push the low end in your mix a little bit more. But then when you take it outside of the speaker, maybe to a car, to a headphone, AirPod, whatever, it's not going to translate the same. So you want to make sure that you're able to get a mix that's going to translate not only off of these speakers, which not every listener is listening on, but into these other environments. And every speaker has its nuance, right? So KRKs, the Rokit 8s I had, for example, there's usually a huge boost in the lows and a huge boost in the highs. So that's kind of the opposite of what we're dealing with here. You're going to have these extreme pronunciations in these areas, and then as a result you may not push those areas as hard because they're, you know, too bass heavy or too high end, harsh, brittle, whatever. And then when you take it outside of the studio again, now it's going to be lacking in those because you've had this bias by using those speakers. So the important thing to really realize is you got to just understand your speakers and the frequency response that they elicit. Nothing is ever perfectly flat. There's always going to be boosts and dips in different areas, but you want to try to get one that's, you know, as close to accurate as possible, or at least you have to learn how to understand what you're hearing and know how to translate it into these different environments. So with these particular speakers, knowing that there's a little bit of a dip, that could be a bit of a problem for some individuals if you're thinking about buying. But with me personally, I have the sub. The sub is going to be making up for this lack of frequency, you know, across the board. So the lack of lows, or I shouldn't say lack, just the dip in the lows, you know, that could be problematic for some people, but if you have a sub, it may not be as problematic. So definitely liking what I'm hearing so far. I want to play maybe one or two songs and just see how those are translating with the vocals and everything. And I can give you my final thoughts and impressions on the T7V. So I'll play the song here from Everything Ocean. This is Odinma, produced by myself and my bro Express, aka DJ XP. Very popular song. I'll leave some links below for it.
She asks me how I'm doing on Denma. Pull up in a brand new Denma. Oh Denma, oh Denma. Shawty do me bad, oh Denma. She asks me how I'm doing on Denma. Pull up in a brand new Denma. Brand new Bima. Shawty say I be dreamer. And I be skimmer. Go 190 this nigga. Nah. I be 4-1. Saturday 905, shorty be so fine, yeah. She the question why, and I say my reply is a I'm a move, why she step on my heart too? I wear a hat too, to cover the whole of my head cause I'm stupid. When I think about you, feel like Cupid. He done shot me so many damn times, now I'm so lost in my mind. They say the seeking I'll find. Oh, Denma, shawty do me bad, oh, Denma. She asks me how I'm doing, oh, Denma. Pull up in a brand new Denma. Oh, Denma, oh, Denma. Shawty do me bad, oh, Denma. She asks me how I'm doing, oh, Denma. Pull up in a brand new Denma.
All right, cool. So yeah, I mean, sounds great. The highs are really smooth. Like they don't feel like they're piercing or poking out. Obviously, I kind of mixed it like that, but you know, some speakers, they do accentuate the high end a little bit too much, and it can, you know, not really give you the most accurate representation. So I definitely feel like the highs and the mids feel pretty accurate here, at least from what I'm used to. I could definitely say the low is a little bit, you know, recessed, I would say. Like it doesn't feel like it's sort of hitting or thumping exactly the same way as I would be hearing on some of these other monitors that I'm used to. It's not really the biggest deal. It's more like if it hits on these monitors, then chances are it's hitting on everything else. You know what I mean? I guess almost like the NS10s in a way. It's not like the NS10s. I'm not trying to say that. But a lot of people like the Yamaha NS10s because they sound so bad that if you can make something sound good on them, it'll pretty much sound good anywhere, right? Let me play one other song. So this is another song that I'm dropping soon. You might recognize it from some of my other videos. Can't Hang With Us, myself and everything Oshawn once again. Yeah, I'm just let it rip. Let's see what it sounds like. I'm very used to this one, so this will be a really good indicator.
Get my paper up. I don't need them, no sir. They can't hang with us. I know what's involved. You can tell you don't think you know it all, but you got a long way to go. You just want what you don't have, not thinking about what you do. Spend so much time focused on it instead of thinking about your next move. And me is thinking about my next move. I gotta do what I gotta do. On everything I put it all on that. I got plans I'm trying to execute. Take a risk while you still used to, cause you know that this isn't for you. Doing nothing yet, put it all on that. You gotta switch if you wanna show and prove. I know what's involved. They ain't got no goals. When they on they lonesome, they just hate on us. While I'm stacking up, get my paper up. I don't need them, no sir. They can't hang with us. I know what's involved. They ain't got no goals. When they on they lonesome, they just hate on us. While I'm stacking up, get my paper up. I don't need them, no sir. They can't hang with us.
Okay, very interesting. So definitely hits. Like just because I'm saying the low frequencies feel a little bit recessed or something like that, like it doesn't mean it's not hitting. It's definitely hitting. Like, so if you're a hip hop producer, R&B producer, you know, anything that has like a lot of low end, you're still going to be fine here, right? It's just maybe not as emphasized as it might be on some other monitors. You know what I mean? But overall, it sounds great. Like it does translate fairly well from what I'm hearing so far. I'm interested to see as I break them in, how that continues to progress. But overall, like I'm really impressed with these monitors. Don't regret my purchase by any means. I mean, they really weren't that much money, especially compared to some other monitors out there. And the sound quality is top notch. The aesthetic is dope. It looks really clean, looks really dope. And the only thing that I might mention as well, and you've probably seen this complaint also, is there's no light or LED on the front of the monitor, so you can't really tell if they're on. Obviously, you could tell on the back there's a power light there, but you know, if you're someone that likes to see that the monitor's on by looking at it, you know, that's a little gripe that, you know, you might feel. But otherwise, like everything sounds great. They give you a lot of input options. You know, it works with the sub, of course. The sound quality is dope. A couple of little things here and there that hold them back from being like a perfect 10 type of situation. But from what I'm seeing so far, it's at least an 8 to an 8.5. Still got to give it some time to fully give a proper rating. But again, this is not sponsored by ADAM. This is just 100% unbiased opinion. Sure, I spent the money on them, so you don't have to. Or maybe you You do have to if you like what you're seeing, like what you're hearing. If you got value out of this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Share it with someone you know it's going to help. And if you want to see anything in a future video, please leave it in the comments below so I could shoot something specific for you. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.
5.